Okay, we're live. Hello, everybody. Do you want to continue that conversation for a second? Because I have to do something. This is a. Anyways, hello, everybody. I gotta do something. Exit.
Don't worry, we'll fill.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
fill it, fill that there.
Actually, John, I was going to ask you if you have any predictions for the McCarthy conversation that's going to start now in 7 minutes.
Um, I have a feeling that he's going to get up there on the podium or get out and behind the podium and basically say the Senate continuing resolution is a non-starter and the Puxatawny Phil has seen his shadow 6 weeks of government shutdown.
The Puxatawny Phil reference there was excellent. Well done.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
boy.
we're locked into a government shutdown at this point. We are locked in just procedurally. The Senate continuing resolution, Rand Paul said he's not going to consent to it. So that means they can't pass it with unanimous consent. So they're going to have to do an actual vote. Based on Senate procedure, they cannot hold a vote for it before Sunday. So Sunday is the new fiscal year. So at a minimum, we're going to have a 24-hour shutdown. That's the absolute minimum. In reality, it's going to be longer because that Senate bill or that Senate continuing resolution is going to need to be reconciled with the House continuing resolution. And then, so those are going to need to be reconciled into a single, common bill that's acceptable to the White House. And then it's going to need to be voted on in both chambers, passed, and then president has to sign it. That's not going to happen quickly. There's going to be some massive wrangling over it. The assistance to Ukraine is going to be a major sticking point. It's going to pass. That's basically all but certain. It will end up in the final bill. The House is just going to make it an absolute pain in the ass to get that through. But it will get through in some form because cutting assistance to Ukraine is an absolute non-starter in the Senate and for the White House. And what's more important is it's not just a non-starter for Democrats in the Senate. It's a non-starter for Republicans, most all of them in the Senate as well. So there is almost, like 90 votes for keeping it in the Senate. The House does not have the leverage to break through that. They just don't.
Hooray! Government shutdown. You know what they could do? They could be adults and compromise.
Well, so no. Here's the best part. This is going to be the first shutdown that we've had ever where the DoD goes completely unpaid. So in all the other shutdowns, except for the one in 2013, the defense appropriations bill, the defense spending bill, had already passed before the shutdown. So everything else shut down, but the DoD was fully funded and continued operating as usual. In 2013, the defense appropriations bill had not yet passed. So Congress had to specifically pass a bill that explicitly covered the salaries of all essential personnel at the DoD. And, that was passed before the shutdown began. And so everybody on active duty, the reserves, all essential civilian personnel that had to keep working through the shutdown, they were all paid. Non-essential civilian personnel, I think, I'm not sure how the National Guard fits into this, they all got furloughed. But at the very least, again, active duty reserves and essential civilian employees all worked and they all got paid. This time, there is no such measure, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any window for one. There is one tabled in the Senate, but it doesn't look like it's going to pass before the shutdown. So for the first time, all active duty U.S. military personnel, reserves, again, not sure how exactly the National Guard fits into this, but all civilian DoD employees, everybody's going unpaid. So in the first federal payday is October 17th. So, but, we're going to have 700,000 U.S. troops on active duty potentially miss a payday. We're going to have 200,000 essential civilian personnel that are required to keep working through the shutdown potentially miss a payday. We're going to have about 450,000 civilian DoD employees furloughed, and then the remaining about 400,000 or so DoD civilians. They will continue to work and be paid because their salaries are funded via mechanisms outside of annual appropriations, so like multi-year appropriations. So they'll be fine. But again, yeah, we're looking at 700,000 people on active duty going unpaid, 200,000 critical DoD civilians being unpaid, and then another 450,000 basically being sent home from work without pay. Plus the entire rest of the U.S. government basically being sent home without pay for the most part.
Vacation. Yeah, on the flip side, we might get a lot more OSINT with a lot of bored people, right?
Oh, well, one thing I should also mention is, I guess this is mainly relevant to the national security stuff, but federal law also prohibits federal employees who are being furloughed for, basically volunteering and working for free during a shutdown. Yeah. So even if there were people that wanted to work, like basically volunteer without pay during the shutdown, they are legally prohibited from doing so.
I have a short and funny story about that. Where I used to work, a guy sent out an email that he meant to send to one person, but he accidentally sent it to reply all. And the email consisted of him trying to figure out a legal loophole to have people work for free. And then we all had to undergo, you can't work for free training. It's illegal, actually.
Oh boy.
It was fantastic.
Side note, how has nobody created a take back button for emails? Like, in this day and age, that should be a thing.
Well, email is I kind of think of it as like writing a letter and like tying it to an arrow and just shooting it out the window.
Yeah. That's a great description.
But yeah, the news in Ukraine, I'm just gonna say it, there's not much of it today. there's really not that much. But I'll go through it. It's probably not gonna take very long. Exit. Do you want to talk about something interesting before we do that? Is there any like boat news?
The most interesting boat news today was that there was a video released by the Russian MOD of Shoigu talking to Sokolov, the Black Sea Fleet commander. I would say that the people that I talk to that I trust the very most on these sorts of things are not yet convinced one way or another exactly when that footage was taken or how accurate it was or any of those types of things. So I think we're still in the wait and see mode, and it's a curious time to be doing that right now, I would say. I'm not sure that there's really any more clarity on anything that's happening with the Black Sea Fleet other than that they have moved the majority, but not all, of the subs to Novo. And I mean, that makes sense. It's a little bit further away, a little bit safer, but that also means that you're going to have to like readjust your logistics, which in the end could shorten your travel time possibly. But adjusting things like that isn't super fast. And it definitely, as Andrew's pointing out on the map right now, means that your transit time for an attack is going to take a lot longer to get all the way over towards Odesa. So it's definitely like Ukraine is having a significant effect on how the Black Sea Fleet can operate in the Black Sea, and that's great. Exactly what that means long term, I don't think we know yet, but it's very, very promising. And the fact that we saw them target Odessa with Onyx missiles again, I think is also a good sign that Ukraine is being effective, because they tend to only bring those out when they're really pissed off.
Yep. And they fired a few recently, including on Sunday, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That was.
I've no
I think
idea what they
that's one
shoot with them. Did they like shoot the hotel by accident? Is that what happened?
I don't totally know. I have been told that the ferry terminal that they hit uh, is basically right where they were doing some of the like grain loading. Like it definitely is. That's where I've seen grain loading happening often. Um, so that's like, I think they meant to hit that. The hotel, I don't totally understand if
Hotel is
that
like
was.
it's like right there. So it's like, I mean, if you were to
Oh, I'd
draw a
never
line,
actually looked. Yeah. I mean, they definitely have been doing grain loading there. So I guess maybe that's the point of it. But I would really like to point out very clearly that there's 3 ships in the Odessa area ports right now. None of them are in that port. They specifically did not target the ports that have ships in them, like civilian ships. So, like, that alone is really quite curious that they are essentially saying, hey, we're all full of bluff and thunder right now, but we're not actually targeting the things that you would expect us to target.
so it, see, when we talk about Odessa, it reminds me of that guy, the soldier who was wounded. Should I tell that story? I feel like it's so depressing. I feel like people should hear things like that, but I also don't
Feel
want
like
to tell it.
that's right.
Should I?
Yeah.
So
I think people need to understand that, like, that's what happens. That's real.
so there is a pretty popular slash famous Ukrainian medic who comes from Odessa, and he has a telegram. Here, I'll go get his telegram real fast. Uh, Here, I'm just gonna screenshot it because I don't feel like showing my actual telegram. But this is his telegram. Combat hemp. But anyways, that's him. So he is a rather popular medic in Ukraine. He's done a lot of TV and other such things, and he had a viral video where he showed up to a location where, from what I could tell, an artillery shell landed in a group of Ukrainian soldiers and critically wounded basically all of them. And he didn't know any of them. Like, I don't think he was even in like the same battalion as those guys. But he was the only one there, and he's a medic, so he started treating them. A few of them looked basically dead when he showed up, but they were still alive somehow. And one of those guys, who honestly to me looked the worst off, he had very bad wounds to all 4 of his extremities. It took like a dozen tourniquets to stop the bleeding, and they evacuated him, and he has been in care ever since. He's I imagine he's had a bunch of surgeries. but he has been mostly in high spirits ever since this happened several months ago. I think it was like 5 months ago or whatever at this point. He he broke both of his legs and both of his arms, and has pretty bad injuries to his wrist, his left wrist in particular. His right hand is in better shape than his left hand, and he's been able to like use chopsticks and stuff like that, which I think is kind of impressive for a guy who has like all these like arm injuries, these chopsticks. But he had been recovering pretty well, and recently it was his birthday. I think it was his 24th birthday, and he asked for a PlayStation. So this medic and all of his followers, they like everybody gave like $1, and he went and bought the guy a PlayStation. I offered to buy him a what's it called, the Microsoft adaptive controller, but he didn't want it. But anyways, so he seemed to be doing really well. And he's like I say, he's like 24, 25. And from what I understood, the doctors basically said that it'll take like a year and a half or so for him to heal. And afterwards, he, like, who knows like how well he'll heal. Because he does have some wrist damage and some damage to his fingers and stuff, but he'll probably be walking around and live a mostly normal life. Okay, so it's just gonna take a long time because he like broke like both of his femurs and his knee and his wrists and his arms. Like, so it's just like a lot of broken bones. But anyways, over the past few days, he's apparently slipped into psychosis. He doesn't really have touch with reality anymore. He thinks that the medic who saved him cut him and broke his bones, and the medic was the one who injured him. He thinks that like people are like out to get him, and he doesn't talk to people anymore. He just kind of like mutters to himself, and everybody is really scared about him. And I don't know how else to say it other than it sounds like psychosis, and probably PTSD. And it's just it's an unfortunate consequence of what happened to him.
I think it's important to point out that like he was on a really good path to recovery, which is great. And yet this can still come in and be a factor much later. And I know on Tochny on the weekend, you guys were talking, you had Will Attig there who had just come back from Ukraine, and was talking about some of the people that he met there, and that they're really working hard to recover because a lot of them are possibly going back on the front lines and all of these other things. But regardless, like these people are working really, really hard to recover. And even when you're doing all of that good work and you look like you're really succeeding, PTSD and other mental health issues can suddenly creep up on you. And there can be physical reasons for that. There could be like brain damage, injuries that can cause some of that. There can be all sorts of reasons. And like the long-term recovery of people in Ukraine is probably much more complicated than a lot of people think of when they see all of the physical injuries that we look at every day.
Yeah. It was really sad to see that this morning, that he's had these complications, because he just looked so happy. In like, he's been like making videos and like talking to people, like his like friends visit him and stuff, and then like it's one thing to be depressed because I can understand being depressed and sad, but he's like he's in psychosis, like he's lost touch with reality, and that's actually really scary. But anyways, um, I figure stories like his should be told, especially because it was already public to begin with, so I'm not like releasing information. Anyways, so to get to the news today, the really the biggest news that I can think of is that Russia is just dropping tons of bombs all over the place, like just enormous numbers of airstrikes. I've been mapping as many as I can. Um, they've they've been bombing Berislav. They did 4 airstrikes on Berislav. 2 of them landed like roughly here, and 2 of them landed roughly here. I think this was their target, which is a I don't even know what this is. It's like some electrical thing. When it exploded, like it sparked and it looked electrical. But anyways, it blew up after like it was like the first 3 bombs missed, but the 4th one hit. They've also been hitting uh, Odesa and Mykolaiivka, and also this island here for some reason. I don't know what that's about. And Olhivka, and they've been hitting Kherson. Yesterday, they had this huge airstrike on Kislivka, and it caused such a significant amount of damage that it's now shut down this whole rail line, which is unfortunate. And when rescuers went to do stuff there today to help wounded people and pull people out of rubble and just to check out what was happening, Russia shelled them. And this is pretty far from the front, so I think you can only shell them with really long range stuff like Smerch or something. But anyways, and that's just like the Dnipro area. They've also been bombing pretty much all the major towns in this Velika Novosilka area. They've been bombing this whole main road, this whole main supply road to Novomykolaiivka. So they've hit Konstantinivka. They've hit I never know how to say that because it's like it's Elizabethka or whatever. But it's a yeah. But anyways, I don't know how to say it in Ukrainian. So yeah, this is the bombing is really becoming an issue. That they've been able to bomb a lot of things, just constant airstrikes all over. They had this Konstantinivka, which is the city. The other one's a town. This one's a city. They've been hitting Pivnichna, which is kind of. I don't actually know where they're bombing. I think it might be over here, but I just kind of placed the mark at random because there's no specifics other than it happened. But this Pivnichna is where Ukraine is building forces to kind of push towards Ozaryanivka. So Russia's been bombing that, trying to slow down the Ukrainian build of forces, basically. And so yeah, they've also been bombing various areas of Sumy, specifically to the southeast of Sumy city, hitting like kind of all of these towns along the border and roughly where my mouse is, and also hitting areas near the border near Kharkiv, hitting Hatice and Staritsa. Yeah, they've been hitting just tons of airstrikes. So there's really nothing Ukraine can do about it other than moving their patriots around and moving to Patriots. I don't even know if that's an actual option they have. Maybe they could do it every once in a while. I don't really know. But they're also under the constant threat of missile strikes and stuff. So, like, what realistically, like, how could you move the Patriot that far
So
away?
they've done it before. What we saw with, I believe, Bryansk, those Russian, the Su-34 and those Mi-8 helicopters that were shot down. That was, I believe, the German Patriot battery that had been moved close to the border and more or less ambushed them while they were preparing to do a mission to release UMPKs. That's obviously not something they're going to be able to do very frequently in terms of using Patriot for a more forward air defense role, simply because they only have 2 batteries currently. Looking forward, hopefully things should maybe get a little better. The indications are that, based upon comments from Raytheon's CEO as well as Ukraine's ambassador to the United States, that it looks like that Ukraine is moving to purchase what looks to be 5 Patriot batteries of their own accord. Those should be all delivered by the end of next year. It isn't clear what the exact delivery time is for those, but as those are delivered and come online, at least by the end of next year, they'll have 7 batteries. And then again, over the coming months, they should have, maybe a battery or so to spare for tasks such as that in especially critical areas.
So sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, go for it.
There's been lots of talk the last couple of weeks that I've heard from people saying things like, Russia's saving up all the missiles, and then as soon as we get to fall and winter, they are gonna increase all of their bombing and really hit Ukraine's infrastructure. Is that an accurate assessment of what is going on?
So that's a difficult question to properly assess and generate an answer for, partially because the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, they haven't released any, well, I shouldn't say that. Well, they haven't released as comprehensive, I guess, reports or claims, depending on how you view them, on Russian standoff munition production capacity in quite a while. They released one in November of last year that was very detailed, and they released an even more detailed one in, I think, January of this year. And then we've had some less detailed reports, mainly quotes from random, like, Hoover spokesmen. Like, there was one in May, and I think there was one last month that wasn't quite as detailed. The most recent one was only inventory. They didn't reference production rates. So without having a production rate estimate, it's very difficult to go to kind of generate a question there, generate an answer there. My estimate was that they were producing about 60 calibers and K-101s per month as of May. They've clearly been able to increase production volume since then. My guess now is they're probably at around about 100 per month. I'm trying to do some data analysis on that. I'm quite literally sitting at my desk working on the code for that analysis right now, as the two of you are talking. But it's possible they could be stockpiling some. The expenditure rates that I've been looking at are basically since May of this year. That's the data set I'm looking at right now. They're expending around about 100 per month. So if their production capacity is actually greater, yes, it's possible they could be stockpiling. The Shahed usage figures are also, they're weirder in the sense that they fluctuate a lot more dramatically. So production capacity has likewise been increasing there as Russia's been trying to get that factory online to produce them locally instead of having to rely on Iranian production. That capacity, I think, is around about now supposed to have it should be producing, I think, somewhere between like 180 and 200 Shaheds a month, I think. That their usage rate kind of spikes wildly above and below that, in a way that isn't really consistent with known production ramp timelines. So, for example, thus far in this month, I actually have the figures in front of me. They've used how many? Let me don't fail me. So they've used that number is definitely wrong. They've used excuse me. Yeah, 381 Shaheeds thus far, not counting any used in the past 24 or so hours in the month of September. That is a rather dramatic increase, for example, over August, July, June, etc. But at the same time, they used like 450 last May, which was wildly in excess of what their production capacity should have been. So I'm not really sure what's going on with the Shahed usage. It's kind of all over the place, which suggests to me they may have a stockpile of some kind, but I don't know what size it would be.
Yeah, I've been under the impression they've been getting deliveries every once in a while.
Yes, they're still getting monthly deliveries from Iran, is my understanding, although I believe their own domestic production has overtaken deliveries now by a significant margin.
Do you want to talk about the jet engine thing?
Oh yeah, so the Iran demoed basically a new version of the Shahed 136 that replaced the propeller, the piston engine, basically with, I'm not sure if it was a turbofan or a turbojet, but it has a jet engine on it now. That will make it, obviously, that's going to increase its cruising speed, and that'll make it somewhat more difficult to intercept. That said, it's also going to drive the unit cost up dramatically. Whether or not that is something that Russia ends up procuring or trying to produce, I don't know. I suspect not, just simply because I'm kind of skeptical they want to go through the effort of trying to localize production of a gas turbine right now. They're probably going to want to concentrate those resources on producing larger gas turbines for the calibers, the KH-101s, the Iskander Ks, etc., and there are various other things that require turbines. I'm just not sure that would. Well, I mean, they may end up doing it. I'm not sure it'd be a good investment for them. Again, just in terms of looking at scales of production, because it's going to cost more. They're going to have to sink more resources into setting up a new production line or modifying the existing production line and cutting the new drones into it. And the per unit cost is just going to be fundamentally higher. Sure, it's slightly harder to defeat, but at the end of the day, it's still worse than a cruise missile. So again, I don't think that resource, that the breakdown of the investment that you would need to make that work, to make that happen, I don't think that's really a smart decision for them, to be honest. So I'm somewhat skeptical they'll go for it.
I don't think a jet Shahed makes much sense. I'm very in favor of jet drones, but not a jet Shahed. It's just slightly faster. Like it's not even going to be fast enough to really make that much of a difference, because it's not going to be flying at like Mach 3 or something.
Well, I mean, even I need to get a better idea of what speed it's exactly flying at. But I mean, high subsonic would be useful. But I mean, again, if you're gonna go to that much effort, just put the money towards KH-101s, for the love of God. It's just, I just can't see that being a good investment for them.
No, probably not. Anyway, speaking of Shaheeds, there was a strike on the port infrastructure last night, and on this truck crossing point. I guess it's like a ferry, right? Anyways, so the port and these trucks were hit by Shaheeds. The port was hit, right? Because I remember the governor saying that the port was hit, but all the photographs were of trucks.
Yeah, they're parked at the port. And then I think you probably saw there was footage from a video of there was some guys standing on a ferry that was kind of parked right beside, I don't know which one it was at, actually. I think it was at the other one.
The internet said it was this.
Yeah.
This is what the internet told me. Did the internet lie?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that's where it was. And they had footage of like some of those trucks being hit. And it's my understanding that, like, I mean, at most crossings, like border crossings, you're going to get vehicles that are lined up waiting for inspection, just kind of sitting there waiting for government processes of inspection to go through. Obviously, there's a little bit more inspection and detail right now in the last couple months because there's so much unhappiness with the different EU countries that are frustrated about imports. That means that you have trucks sitting for longer, and unfortunately, they are a good target for Russia, and Russia is taking the opportunity to hit them on a fairly consistent basis lately.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not enough like Gepards or whatever to shoot them all down.
Nope.
Okay. So, in other kind of random news, I don't actually know what happened here, but the main gas line depressurized and exploded near Poltavka today, or in Poltavka. I don't. Was that just like random? Because I couldn't actually. To be honest, I didn't spend much time on this, but I didn't see an explanation for why it just exploded. Was it like a strike, or was it just randomness?
I totally missed that. Is that a natural gas pipeline? Or do you...
I think so. Oh no, it just kind of exploded today. Here. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. It was weird. Unfortunately, it happened in Poltava, and Dmitry Lunin is like the worst information source on Earth. He does like his standard information usually looks something like this. He just says, "Error alert." That's it. Nothing else. You just error alert. And if you scroll up, error alert's over. That's it. He's like the worst source of information. Like he said technical. Well, he every once in a while he explains that there's going to be training, but yeah, he just said an explosion rang out and it depressurized, and this is the place of the explosion. There's fire. The grass caught on fire, and that's him. That's the guy. Zero info from this guy. Fantastic. I don't know why I even follow him, but yeah, I don't really have much information about that. It was just weird. Anyways, beyond that, I've been kind of covering everything but the news because there's not much news. So if we get into actual newsy news today, today Russians posted a video of a bridge exploding near Kupiansk. Ukraine reported an airstrike near Kupiansk, but the governor didn't record an airstrike near Kupiansk, which is weird. The reason I find this weird is that I'm pretty sure this bridge was actually destroyed like 2 weeks ago. And Russia did post some video from back then. Let me find that video actually. But so I don't think the videos that they posted today were from today, but the fact that there was an explosion in Kupiansk today, or an airstrike today, with no other explanation is weird. They may have hit the bridge again, which I wouldn't put it past them. So here, let me open some telegrams. This was from a while ago. What day was this? September 20th, which was 6 days ago, almost a week ago. This was let's just skip to the bridgey part. I don't want to look at the car part. So this was the bridge that exploded, right? Which I located to be this bridge. Obviously, we can't see it, but there's this actual bridge was destroyed when Russia retreated from Kupiansk, and Ukraine built like a second road that goes kind of just north of it, and there was a temporary bridge crossing the river, and this bridge blew up on, I believe it was September 19th that it exploded. And the video came out on the 20th. And now Russia published a video of this bridge exploding today, which is weird. But anyways, so that's all a thing. And this was noted on my map back then, if I go back in time far enough. Let's keep going back in time. One more day. Here it is. And you can see that it was marked then. It's not loading correctly. I don't know why. So, oh, there it is. But yeah, I even had a screenshot and everything. That was the exact location. Anyways, I don't know what this thing in Kupiansk was about. Moving on south. Russia said that they repulsed 8 assaults from Ukraine today near Dibrova. I don't actually know if that's true, but that's what they claim. And moving on down, Russia said that they repulsed an assault near Verbove-Novoprokopivka, which was right here. They shot a BMP-2 with an ATGM. You can even see the ATGM hole right there, which is weird because that's where the driver is. What's weirdest, though, is that I'm pretty sure this BMP drove away, which is, I don't even know how. I don't know how the driver survived that. It's like he got shot in the head with an ATGM, basically, and he is like, whatever, drove away. It was kind of smoking when it drove away, but I'm pretty sure this survived. Also, of note, well, the BMP doesn't have a barrel. That's weird. It's weird not having a barrel. But, yeah. That was an assault that they claimed they repelled. There's a video of the assault. I don't feel like showing the video because it's kind of violent, including that ATGM strike. So, moving on south.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Sure.
Can you do anything with a BMP without a barrel?
You can drive around.
Okay. That's all I can think of, but
I mean,
sometimes you ask these questions.
It doesn't have a barrel. I don't know what to say. There's no barrel there. Like, the barrel is supposed to come out to like here, but there's no barrel. There's like a barrel shroud. Cause like there's a shroud for the barrel, like, so that when the barrel recoils, it like goes into the shroud a little bit. You know what I mean? But the barrel's gone, the shroud's still there. Because the shroud is like part of the mantlet or whatever. But yeah. And there's a hole where the driver is. I don't understand this BMP. This BMP is very confusing to me. I don't understand anything about what happened in that video. It's just weird. It's like it was like powered by ghosts or something. It kind of reminded me of that the T-34 movie. I don't know if anybody's seen that. Or it's not called T-34. It's called The White Tiger. Yeah, that's the name of that movie. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. But that video reminded me of The White Tiger. The White Tiger. Okay, I'll describe The White Tiger, because why not? The White Tiger is a Russian propaganda movie from like 15 years ago or whatever, maybe 20 years ago. I don't know. It is about a tiger tank that didn't have a crew. It was run by ghosts or whatever. They never really get into that. I think the tank itself was a ghost because it just disappeared. Anyway, so there's like this ghost tank full of ghost crew. And the only person who could defeat it was a dead guy. And he was dead, but he drove a T-34. But he was dead, and that's really important. And so it was a dead guy versus a ghost. And a spoiler, at the end, they both lose. So that's the movie. It's on YouTube if you want to watch it. It's terrible, really awful. And then like the whole like last 10 minutes, like Hitler shows up out of nowhere for some reason. Bad movie, really bad. Uh, anyways, today a video came out from the Russians. They published it. It was from Andriivka, and it showed what they claim was a Ukrainian assault that took place between September 24th and 25th, which was yesterday. And this assault didn't seem to go well from what we could see. This Ukrainian vehicle tipped over. This BMP exploded. There are more exploding tanks over here. I haven't mapped the whole video yet because I didn't have time. But the short of it is Ukraine appeared to have attacked something like on this vector south, and they tried crossing the train tracks and going east, apparently. And from the looks of the video, it didn't go well. Although the reality, I have no idea. One thing that I did note is that in watching the video, which I can't show, unfortunately, in watching the video, I didn't see any humans anywhere, living or not. They were all vehicles, which was weird for a battle, especially like a fresh battle. So that was interesting to me. But yeah, is apparently Ukraine has been launched a large scale attack to cross this railway, and whether it succeeded or not, it seems to have not succeeded. Yeah, now people are talking about that movie in in the chat. Man, I think I did the movie justice in my description of it. If my description sounded disjointed and illogical, it's the movie's fault. Okay, so moving on down.
I can't say it was a great sales pitch for it.
It's a terrible movie.
That's
It's awful.
a good thing.
It's really bad. It's really bad. And really racist, too. Okay, so in Avdiivka, over the past few days, there have been some minor Ukrainian advances here near Opitna. They have moved down this tree line, as noted here. Then they've started moving south down this tree line towards Opitna. Russia tried launching a counterattack north from Opitna into the tree line. This BMP was, it's not actually BMP2, it's actually BMP1. I need to fix that. This BMP crashed into like 5 landmines and exploded. I've never seen a vehicle crash into so many landmines consecutively before, but that one did. I couldn't even tell what was happening when I first watched the video. I thought it was a BMP2 crashing into 1 landmine, but it turned out to be a BMP1 crashing into like 5 landmines. So anyways, that's kind of the situation around Opitna. Really not much to talk about. Very minor gains. Although these gains are kind of important, they're just kind of boring to me, personally. There was this large attack from Russia north of Mariinka. They attacked along these lines. These lines I drew on top of the satellite imagery from Sentinel. I traced the tracks that they took, and that's what they did. So they drove from this line here across and attacked here. Now, the result of this, I have no idea. A few of the Russian mill bloggers claim that the attack was a success and they took this tree line. I've seen no evidence of that. It could be true. I don't see evidence to the contrary either. I basically just see no evidence at all. There was shelling on this tree line. Don't know whose shelling it was. There was shelling up on this tree line as well. You can more clearly see the shelling south of the tree line, but if you look closely, all of these little white dots are shelling. Like each of these dots is an artillery shell, or a MRL, like a grad or something. And they also shelled over here. This basically this you could like almost see like a perfect circle of shelling, and like they shelled like right here. So all of the shelling was part of that attack. I again I don't know the outcome. In Mariinka, Russia has been shelling this little strip of houses for a while now, and I finally decided to put it under Ukrainian control, because it's really been like 3+ weeks of shelling these houses. So and this shelling here was this particular house, but they've also shelled kind of this first block up until like this intersection. To be honest, I don't really know where the front line here is anymore. We have seen Ukrainian tanks kind of drive up to around here and engage from there and then drive away. So I felt that was probably a gray area, but maybe that was a Ukrainian controlled in there. Maybe Ukraine controls like over here. Not really sure. Russia's main control is kind of on the higher ground up on this kind of little U-shaped road. This is higher ground, whereas this is a little bit lower. And that's about that. Now, in Novoprokopivka and Kostianivka and this town I don't know how to pronounce, there's been heavy aerial bombardments of airstrikes, big bombs, dropping lots of bombs. Like, for example, we'll just watch this video. This is a good example. I think it's funny that they describe this as precision, considering the first bomb completely missed. It completely missed, but the second bomb hit. So this is the sort of thing that we're talking about with these airstrikes here. And I guess I could show this one too. Why not? It's more or less the same, except over here. So these airstrikes, I'm not entirely sure what they're shooting at. I don't really know what they're trying to achieve. I just know that they're doing it. So same pretty much goes for here, where there's also been no other changes. And now getting into Verbove and Novoprokopivka, which is kind of the last area that I'm going to talk about today, because I don't really have anything else to talk about. Yesterday, we had a video published by Russians who claimed that these were in fact Russian soldiers, even though they probably weren't. But this video showed, first it showed Russian shelling infantry right here. It showed shelling of infantry right here. And then it showed infantry moving north to there. And to be clear, the infantry at all times were engaging towards the east. So the infantry here were looking east when they were getting shelled. And the infantry here that were moving north were looking east. So it seems that it was Ukrainians. It's almost certainly Ukrainians, because they're like taking cover on the wrong side of the trees and all that. So it seems like they're Ukrainians. Now, beyond that, there was another video pretty similar to that I didn't get a chance to map yet. But that this other video, it showed Ukrainians, I believe they were medevacing along this tree line here. And so yeah, it seems that Ukraine is very, very close to Verbove. Now, people are claiming that Ukraine is in Verbove. I've seen no evidence of that. There was this vehicle the other day that left Verbove, driving at a high rate of speed down this road, and then suddenly exploded. And I don't know how it exploded or why or who who exploded it. And we also don't really know whose vehicle it was. People assumed it was a Ukrainian vehicle driving, and that Russia blew it up somehow. We don't see how it blew up. It just suddenly explodes. Probably from, I assume, from a mine. But I think that the vehicle was a BMD, and in particular a BMD-4, or maybe a BMD-2. Other people think it's a BMP-2, or maybe even a BMP-3. It's really hard to tell. I can. Nope, that's not it. Here, I'll show you a part of this video, and you can see how hard it is to identify this. Okay, so this is the vehicle in question. Let's see if any of you can positively, with full confidence, tell me what vehicle this is and who owns it. There you go. That's the vehicle. See, what I see when I looking at this, you can see the vehicle go airborne, and to me, when I see a vehicle go airborne going over a little tiny bump, I think it's a BMD, not a BMP. But I don't know. It's hard to identify. But if you do interpret that as a Ukrainian vehicle, it would mean that Ukraine is pretty deep into the town, probably at least a block in, considering it was leaving without being shot at least obviously shot at. Yeah. I do know that there have been lots of rumors floating around today of Ukraine like being on the verge of capturing Verbove. I've not seen evidence of that. Now, similarly, in Novoprokopivka, yesterday, there was a video that a bunch of people, for literally no reason, declared was from Novoprokopivka. They said that the reason it's definitely from there is because it had a water tower. So, exit. Have you been to a town that didn't have a water tower? Like,
yeah, there's lots around me. Don't.
You don't have them? Okay.
Not all of us do. There's definitely water towers, like the middle-sized city near me has a water tower, but lots of the bigger cities around me do not.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about big cities. No, I'm talking about like little towns.
Yeah, the little town near me doesn't have one.
Show-offs. But anyways, they're pretty common. Like most towns that are flat. Like if you live, because you need the water pressure, right? Like it's not like the whole point is to build the water pressure. So if you don't have elevation to build the water pressure with gravity, then you need a water tower. So if you live in a chronically flat environment where it's flat as a pancake in all directions, you might have a water tower. And that kind of describes Ukraine. You can't identify a town based on the existence of a water tower. You have to at least like match the water tower or do something. Just like, oh, it has a water tower though. Yeah, like I was going crazy. But anyways, that video wasn't from there. It was actually from Izium. Okay? It was from Izium. Okay, just want to get that out of the way. I got so many DMs about this yesterday. Did you look at Novoprokopivka? Yeah, I did. Okay.
How do you feel about this, Andrew?
I got literally hundreds of DMs about this. Literally hundreds. Anyways,
But that wasn't feeling words. What are your feeling words, Andrew?
I wrote a thread about how it's not Novoprokopivka, and in the thread,
I read it.
Every response was, "But what if it's Novoprokopivka?"
I'm glad they read the thread, obviously.
Anyways, are rumors that Ukraine is on the verge of capturing it. Again, I see no evidence. I mean, I'm not refuting. I'm not saying it's not true. There's no evidence to believe it. Like the most we have is that Ukraine entered this like farm thing, and it didn't go well. In the video, it didn't go well. I mean, it may have gone well after the video, but it didn't go well in the video. So, there's just no evidence of these major changes that people are just saying on the internet. Like, people are just saying like, oh, there's a major breakthrough. The town's collapsed. Everything. They're all running away. They're running. They're fleeing. They're scared. No, there's no evidence. There's not satellite evidence. There's not video. There's just rumors on Twitter. I don't even see the rumors on Telegram. It's just Twitter. It's like Twitter rumors. It's embarrassing that people constantly do this. I wish people just didn't. People do it for clicks. They want this social cred. They want to feel good. And I feel like some of them feel like they're doing something positive. They're not. Just making up things is not positive to anybody. It's not helpful. At least like show evidence. And your evidence shouldn't be anonymous sources. Please, God. At least like, if you're going to use like anonymous sources as your evidence, at least have like actual evidence like most of the time. So that like, maybe like one time you have an anonymous source, like people can be like, oh, well, you usually have good sources, so okay, I'll believe you this time, you know? But these people are just like, it's always anonymous sources with them. It's like chronically anonymous. Nobody, it's so frustrating. Why do people keep falling for it? Stop falling for it. Anyways, so that's all I got. That's like the news. John, do you want to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, preach, brother, about the anonymous sourcing stuff. Jesus, God help us.
Yeah. So the actual news is there's like nothing. There's no news. It's the actual news. Oh, I can show you some things that are weird. So I'll show you something that's weird. Just give me a second. There are some. I'm gonna cut out their names because I don't want to share their actual names. So here's some comments. Okay, these are just some comments. I need to find more of them. There's more of this. If I can't find the other ones. Oh, here's one. So here's another. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Here's another comment. It's pretty much the same comment, just different. And here I'll maybe find another one. Maybe that's good enough. 2 is enough. There's more. I could do more, but I'm not going to. But you see, the Russians are claiming that literally nothing is happening, and that's highly suspicious to me. Whenever they say literally nothing is happening, I assume something is happening, because whenever nothing happens, they don't say anything. They don't say like, well, nothing happened today, everybody. Never happens. They either say something happens or they say nothing, which is what like a normal person would do usually. When they have this like big concerted like propaganda campaign that tell me that nothing is happening, it makes me think something's happening. So this is like the only this is even evidence. It's just like this is the only thing that makes me think something's happening. Is that they're claiming nothing happened. Yeah, I can make the font bigger here. Make it bigger. I'm sorry. Here, is that bigger? Is it bigger for you? There. Should I make it? I can make it even bigger here. That should be big enough, right? Can you read that exit? you're probably on the phone. Never mind.
No, I can read that.
Okay, cool.
I was here.
So basically, they're just saying nothing's happening. They're saying the enemy is not attacking. There's total silence. We saw a pickup truck. If you thought we were joking about nothing's happening, well, guess what? We were right. Nothing's happening. This is, and if you scroll through like the Russian accounts, they all said this tonight. I don't really believe it when they tell me nothing's happening. It makes me think something's happening, but other than that, there's no actual evidence. Now, we could get like a whole rash of videos like tomorrow or the next day or the next day or whatever, and that could show that things have been happening. But we're gonna have to wait for that before we say anything, right? So as of right now, that's about it. There's been heavy shelling around Nikopol. There's been airstrikes. There's been attacks on infrastructure. Yeah, there was an attack on Kryvyi Rih yesterday. I don't really know what happened. They're very secretive. Oh, there was one thing, and this is kind of borderline rumor. So take this with a grain of salt. This is borderline rumor that a bunch of people in Lysychansk today said that Ukraine struck the area around the football stadium, which is right here, with something that they were implying it was a Gimler or multiple Gimlers. I can't remember the exact number. Six Gimlers, they say. Russians posted photographs from the houses around the football stadium showing broken windows, etc. And the local people there claimed that a bunch of Russians were wounded, and they also said something about a ammo cache exploding. Now, this is all kind of borderline rumor. The photographs were interesting. Their houses are broken windows. It wasn't that interesting, but it was interesting that there were photographs. But yeah, that's about it. That's kind of the information you may have not have already known, because this was not widely talked about. And yesterday, there was a missile strike in Krasnodon where they blew up a ammo cache, and we have satellite imagery of the happened afterwards, which was a lot of fire, basically. So that's about it. That's all the news I got. Oh, John, do you want to talk about those, what are they called? GLS DBs? Are they going to come ever?
Yeah, so the timeline was revised. It was delayed. So the original timeline, in my understanding, was October. That was the timeline as of spring of this year. It has since been pushed back to late November, early December, or so I've heard talking to a couple people. My understanding is they're really struggling to hit some of these deadlines. It looks like they'll hopefully the first couple will be in theater by probably December, ideally late November, but probably December. Small quantities, so we'll probably see it kind of a teething phase where the Ukrainians get a feel for it, and then begin prosecuting the most valuable targets that they can with the limited number of GLSDBs that they have. In that kind of 80 to 150 kilometer range gap that they had not been able to previously service. Then beyond that, we should be looking at larger, more meaningful quantities for more general usage sometime probably midway through next year. So probably another, in terms of seeing it in widespread service, we're probably looking at 9 to 12 months. in terms of limited service, probably within 3 months or so, 2-3 months.
What do you think is going to show up first? An F-16 or those glide bombs?
The glide bombs.
Okay.
The F-16s won't be ready probably until February or March at the earliest.
Okay.
Right. And I also would, I'm going to be honest, if things keep trending how they are, I would expect ATACMS to arrive before GLSDB, and I mean that as a serious statement.
I actually, I fully expect them to be honest. At this point, anyway. And that's not really a statement on the glide bombs either. I just think if the US is going to send them, I think it's going to be pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see any ATACMS this month, not with how many days are left, but I think that we'll see probably drawdowns next month. I don't think we'll get an announcement from the White House about it until they're employed in combat, or until they're literally like within 24 hours of them being employed. But yeah, I expect we'll probably see them in theater next month if I had to guess.
All right. People are very upset about those glide bombs. Anyways. Anyway, that's the stream. I'll be back on Friday. And maybe there'll be more interesting things to talk about by then. All right. See you later. And thank you for coming, by the way, John and Exit.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.